Thank you for listening to The Real Deal with Damian Adams. This is Real Sports Talk for the Real Sports Fan, and I definitely appreciate all you Real Sports fans who are listening right now. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, thank you. Please don't forget to rate and review the podcast and give us that 5-star rating, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. That 5-star rating and review would definitely be appreciated. If you're listening on Spreaker Radio on a 3-point conversion station, I appreciate you as well, just as much. And a 3-point conversion station is where fans' opinions matter. So please let us know what you think of the show. If you think the show can improve some, let me know how. You know, I can take some constructive criticism, but please be gentle. I am a gentle soul. Let me know how I can get better. If you think the show is perfect, don't hold your feelings at all. Just let us know how you really feel. Tell me how great you think the show really is. All right? And I'm really excited about today's show because I have a special guest on the phone lines. This young lady knows her sports. And not only does she knows her sports, she comes from a different perspective, and she also comes from a funny perspective, and she just does the thing, all right? Tonight I have Jonique Johnson, host of JoJo's Replay. How you doing today, JoJo?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Happy to have you on the show.
I'm happy to have me. Thanks for hitting me up and giving me the opportunity to come on to your show and talk sports with you. I'm definitely excited.
Appreciate that. And now for people who may not be familiar with you, it's your first time on my show, and I like to start the show by getting to know the guest. Can you give a brief introduction about yourself and tell people what you have going on?
Well, basically, you know, everybody knows me on Facebook and social media as JoJo, as you just said, host of JoJo's Replay podcast. I got into the sports radio / podcasting world a couple years ago. I was going to school for broadcasting and communication, and a family crisis happened to where I couldn't go to school full time, and I was looking for something to continue to create a platform and create a following. So maybe I could start my own show and, create my own fan base and, see where that led me. And that's where JoJo's Replay came into creation. And it's been a crazy ride. I've learned so much from when I first started to now. I basically taught myself everything, on my own, and it's been a learning experience step by step. But I'm excited, man. I'm a diehard Cowboys fan, which is where my passion of sports first came, and it kind of just escalated from there. Just watching the Cowboys game, I wanted to know about, all the other players in the league and all the other teams, and why these wide receivers are bunched up all on one side, and why what's this man-to-man or zone coverage all these commentators speak of. And it kind of grew from there into a passion. And I love sports. I love what it does for the world, how it can bring a whole nation or a state or a city together in a time of crisis, and the teamwork and the camaraderie that it teaches our young adult youth, and everything about it, man. I just love it. So I couldn't pick a better thing to do with my life than talk about sports.
Yeah, I'm definitely right there with you. Got the same passion. I'm a Saints fan originally from Louisiana, and same thing growing up watching football, want to know more about it. And basketball is my favorite sport because that's what I grew up playing. And for me, it just I always feel at home when I'm talking sports.
Yeah.
And that's why
definitely.
It feels like the right thing. And you do it so well on JoJo's Replay. What can people expect when they tune into your show?
Well, JoJo's Replay, we talk sports, of course, that's the basis and the meat and potatoes of our show, but we talk about a lot of different things. We talk about, the different things that are going on within our culture. I'm a gay black woman, so I'm very in tune to what's going on in the LGBTQ community, and connecting with my fan base, whether they're straight, gay, and that's the whole thing with JoJo's Replay. We want to connect with people from a fan's perspective. If you want numbers and analytics and all of that boring stat bull crap, then you need to go to ESPN or somewhere else, because on JoJo's Replay, I like to give facts and knowledge about the games and in the sports that I'm speaking of, while making it entertaining for my listeners as well. We always do a thing that I do on every show is the word of the day, where we give a word and a definition, and we just try to do fun things. We talk about music, we talk about movies, but the basis of the show is sports. So when you come to JoJo's Replay, expect to get sports real and raw, and I'm going to keep it real, whether I'm talking about the Cowboys or the Patriots or the Cleveland Browns or the Washington Wizards or whoever. I'm going to give it to you real, and I'm going to give it to you with sports knowledge and a little bit of flavor at the same time.
And along with JoJo Replay, you also do Keeping It Real with Tony. So when you do Keeping It Real with Tony, what brought that about, and why is it important to you to also do that show along with JoJo's Replay?
Well, see, Keeping It Real with Tony came about because with all the struggles that I go through day by day, and this is not just with JoJo's Replay podcast, it's in life in general, being gay, being black, being a woman, and being in this sports industry that's so heavily male dominated. It's just it's a lot to break through, and have people take you serious. And I approach everything in life that I do 150%. And my friend Tony, she's an activist. She's very going on in the community, what's going on as far as politics and our local politics and who's in office, and just the general cultural knowledge that she brings with Keeping It Real with Tony. And that's exactly what we do. We keep it real no matter what topic we're talking about, whether it's love, whether it's relationships, whether it's Democratic nominations, whatever the case may be. We bring it to you real, and we bring it to you raw, and that's the chance for fans of JoJo's Replay to see me talk about different things in a more raw setting. It's definitely parental advisory because we use plenty of profanity, and we just bring it to you like we would if you're in a barbershop or a beauty salon and you're just having an open dialogue with mature adults. That's what Keeping It Real with Tony is all about.
Yes, I'm a fan of both shows. I'm telling you guys, go ahead and subscribe to JoJo's Replay. You'll get both Keeping It Real and JoJo's Replay, both really good shows. And you can see that your rawness and your realness brought you up to this opportunity that you had last week where you were selected for First Take Your Take, and you got to debate against the legendary Stephen A. Smith. How did that come about?
Well, actually, I knew the contest was going on, but I never really joined the group or submitted a video until an ESPN intern, shout out to Rudy, she hit me up on Messenger. She was like, hey, I came across some of your videos that you do. We think you would be perfect for the First Take Your Take competition, and she's really kind of pushed me to submit a video. She's like, why not submit a 2-minute video if you do these rants every week anyway, and for a chance to debate with Stephen A. She was really pushing to get more women on the show and to win through the contest. So that's where that came about, and I just started submitting videos every week, and it was great. Even the weeks that I didn't get picked, I got to debate with other people within the group. I got to people would migrate to my JoJo's Replay page, and I got to have new followers in the process. And as far as Stephen A. Smith, you know what I mean? I hate I had to school him the way I did, you know what I'm saying? But it was a great experience. We talked a little bit before we started filming, and he was so genuine and real about me and, what he thought about my talent, and encouraged me to keep doing what I was doing, and even asked me the name of my podcast. And we talked after the debate, and him and Molly just showered me with compliments, telling me that that I was one of the best that they ever had. So it was fun. I had to check them the way I did it. You know what I'm saying? But it was definitely a fun time going back and forth with them, I'm sure.
So is that one of your ultimate goals, to maybe become a permanent part of an ESPN show one day, or do you want to continue just to maybe build your own thing and maybe one day just have a TV show to maybe yourself, where it's on your own network? What is your ultimate goal when it comes to the sports media game?
I'm always open to opportunities, but my main goal and what I picture in the long run for all of this is exactly what you said. It's building an empire under JoJo's replay. I would rather be self-made and self-created versus having to depend on a corporation to pay my bills and to make sure I'm eating. And the reason JoJo's replay is so important, and shows like yours, Damien, as well, is because we have an opportunity with the world that we live in today to create our own platform. And I don't think people realize just how rare that was 10, 15 years ago. Like, you didn't have an option but to go to school and go through, these particular steps to get to where you got to talk about sports on an ESPN. But now with technology and all the different social media outlets that we have, you truly can create your own brand, your own empire, your own identity. And what's so great about it is no one's controlling the content and the way that you present that content to the world. And that's what I want with JoJo's Replay. I want it to start with my podcast, and when it gets to a certain degree, I picture having a whole network of shows under the JoJo's Replay umbrella that we produce and we put out to the world. I'm not very knowledgeable in baseball, for example, so I would love to get somebody who loves the game of baseball, and they had their own show that covered primarily baseball, or someone who's really into hockey, and they had a show where they covered primarily hockey, but it's all under the JoJo's Replay brand and empire. So that's my goal. Would it be great to work for ESPN if the opportunity arose? Yes, it would. But that would be only a stepping stone to further create the brand of JoJo's Replay, because that's the ultimate goal, is being self-sufficient.
I'm definitely right there with you. If you have your own, nobody can take it from you. So I definitely like that. That's your ultimate goal. And hopefully we can help each other build these self-sufficient brands.
Exactly, and that's what it's all about. Like, I when I first started this, I was faced with so much where people or individuals felt like, oh, well, if I help her, that may take away from my audience. When if we all put our resources in together and we all push each other and share each other's content, then we all could win. Like, if we all really had that mindset, before we knew it, we could take down an ESPN, because this is the new way that sports fans want to consume their sports. They don't want to look at a TV screen and see some old, middle-aged white guy, getting paid millions of dollars per contract, because not too many people can see that as themselves. But when people look at me, or when people look at you, holding their camera and talking about sports and coming across passionate, just as passionate as a fan would, talking about their favorite team, it brings a different type of connection, you know what I mean? Versus watching these guys on TV and feeling like that could never be you, but somebody who's a Cowboys fan and they're watching our videos, they're like, man, if I really had the confidence, I could, get on my phone and talk about sports, and that's what it's all about.
Definitely. And speaking of being passionate about your favorite team, you mentioned that you're a big-time Dallas Cowboys fan. I know you're also a big-time Mavericks fan as well. So let's talk about them for a little bit. For your Dallas Cowboys, on your podcast, you said that so far in the offseason that you're giving them a B. A solid B, not B plus, not B minus, but a solid B. Why do you feel that they've done a good job this offseason?
Well, a lot of Cowboys Nation was upset because they felt like we were stagnant, right? And we weren't making moves. Like, what were we doing once the free agency bells finally rang? But I think what a lot of Cowboys Nation forgot is that we are strapped as far as this hard salary cap that we have in the NFL. We didn't really have a lot of money to go out there and make a lot of moves like the Los Angeles Rams or a Cleveland Brown or even the Indianapolis Colts, even though they have all that freaking cap space, and I still haven't seen them do anything of significance. But that's a story for another day. So you add Fleming, a guy coming over from a Super Bowl team, to address the issues that we had at the offensive line. We Tyron Smith in and out of the lineup. due to injuries, the back and the knee. Then you had that fool Chaz Green. I don't know where he is, but he's not still be in Texas. I tell you that much. And Jonathan Cooper, we lose him to free agency, and I think I know I did at least because when Ron Leary and Doug Free left due to retirement and free agency, I was not expecting it to affect our offensive line to the degree that it did, but it was very obvious that we missed those two guys in our rotation, and it affected us, especially dealing with the injuries and having to force Lyle Collins to change positions, even though he did better as the weeks went on throughout the year. So I think that was a great signing, and then you bring Allen Hurns in, a guy that even though he only had, I think it was about 484 yards, 39 receptions last year, we know he had that explosive year back in 2015 when he threw for 1,000. He caught over 1,000 receiving yards, and he had 10 touchdowns. And he was lined up mostly out wide during that season. And really, that's something that I feel like we lacked as far as the Cowboys offensively. We didn't really have the deep threat that would force defenses to play over-the-top coverage against us. And you force the defense to play that over-the-top coverage because you have that deep threat coming down the field. That opens up more opportunities for a Cole Beasley or a Des Bryant if he's still with us when the season starts. Or a Bryce Butler or Terrence Williams, even though we know Bryce Butler is gone and Terrence Williams has a broken foot, but you get my drift. And it just opens up more for other players on the field. So I was happy with that. The Deontay Thomas, I don't think he'll take the 53-man roster, honestly. And we have the guy Davis, I believe his name is, the linebacker. He won't replace Anthony Hitchens and what he does because he's so versatile and he's able to play all three positions at the linebacker spot. But I feel like based on the money that we had available to spend and based on the needs that we have, I feel like we did a pretty good job. And I feel like the defensive side of the ball, we would address that predominantly in the draft. So that's why I gave him a B.
I definitely can feel you on that. And you mentioned Des Bryant. Maybe, it's still in the air if he'll be there or not. How do you feel about Des Bryant? Because Des Bryant is a very polarizing figure amongst Cowboys fans. He's somebody who still pretty young, still would be in his prime years, and people seem to have given up on him, even though he's definitely still productive, but he's not having those years he had with Tony Romo. Do you think Des Bryant could get back to that level or somewhere close to it?
I do, and it's crazy to me, like, a guy has 838 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns, and all of a sudden it's a down year, right? I can name you about 20 to 25 coaches in the NFL that would love a receiver on their roster that put up those type of numbers. But based on what we've seen of Dez, this is a guy that caught, 16 touchdowns in 2014? He has the ability to be so much more, but I feel like people, when they say that he's fell off or Cowboys Nation, when they're down and out on Dez, to me, those are people who don't know football. Like, they watch football, but they watch it from the surface. You know what I mean? Because if you really watch the tape and look at what Dez does, even on a game where he may not be catching the ball or he may be struggling to get open, a lot of people complain that he didn't get a lot of separation. The attention that he forces defenses to pay to him, it's an advantage for your offense whether he's catching the ball or not. And we all know that this is a guy who has the ability to go up and get 50 balls and come down with them more times than not. And when you go with a guy like Tony Romo, who was a veteran when Des Bryant first came into the league, and then he goes from there to playing with a rookie who in his rookie season, they were very safe with that first guy. They didn't really do a lot of down the field. But they were very meticulous in the plays that he ran through that offense. And then when you go into his second year, again, Des Bryant had 838 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. So with a second-year quarterback, and you're able to, 100 and something odd yards away from establish another 1,000-yard receiving season, I feel like that's a down year. I feel like that's a quarterback that's young and growing, getting to know his star receiver, and just sit back and watch, man, because if they are able to figure out this thing with Dez, him and Dak, they are going to get on the same page, and he is going to be somebody that is very instrumental to what we do this upcoming season.
I'm definitely hear you there. And speaking of star receivers, we had a big move happen today in the NFL. You better hide your kids, hide your wife, because if you don't, the Rams going to get them. Because the Rams out here picking up everybody. So you got the Rams. The Rams today, they made a trade where they traded their first-round pick, and I believe a sixth-round pick as well, where they got Brandin Cooks and a fourth-round pick back from the New England Patriots. What do you think of that move? Mm-hmm. Let's go from the Rams side first. What do you think of that move from the Rams side to pick up Brandin Cooks?
Well, I mean, kudos to the Rams, man. They're doing what they've been doing all season, which is looking like they're shoring up for a Super Bowl run right here and right now. So I definitely give them two thumbs up for the aggression and going out there and grabbing these players. You talk about a secondary that's going to be featuring Marcus Peters, Akeem Talib, and then you got a defensive front that's going to have Sue and freaking Aaron McDonald. Or not Sue, but Aaron McDonald. And I don't know. I just feel like the Rams are in position to upset or shock a lot of people. But see, this is the thing for me that's a negative when you build your team through free agency. For one, your defensive coordinator in Wade Phillips is pretty up there in age, okay? And you want all of these personalities. Akeem Talib, we know he's liable to walk into the arena and the stadium and have bipolar disorder or OCD one day. He's just all over the place. Hell, he might shoot himself in the leg again next season. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen with Akeem Talib. But you have a lot of different personalities that you're trying to mesh, and you just never know how that's going to go. We saw what happened with the Giants when they tried to build their defense primarily through free safety. It resulted in a 3-11 season and the number 2 draft pick in this year's draft. So it's a hit or miss. Does it look good on paper? Yes, they look like they're going to be a pretty freaking unstoppable team. But we all know what looks good on paper doesn't always translate to the field. So when it comes to the Rams, I'm like a wait and see. But we all saw what Tom Brady did for what Brandin Cooks did for Tom Brady last season. I don't think I've ever seen Tom Brady throw the ball that deep that many times in one season as he did with having a receiver like Brandin Cooks. I haven't seen it since Randy Moss. So, they got some pieces, but it's all about what you're able to do with them pieces. And until I see that, I'm on the fence about the Rams. They're doing too much. It could backfire on them real soon.
That's an interesting perspective because you're right. When you build through free agency, it could be a chemistry thing. You never know how those personalities will interact with each other. You could have all talent in the world, but if that talent isn't meshing, it's just a waste of talent. So that's a very interesting perspective there. I do like what they're doing, though, because if you're a Rams fan, you have to be excited about your team going for it this way. If your team's going to... Oh, my
gosh, I would be losing it. I would be freaking losing it right now.
You have to be excited about the fact that they're going for... You're like, okay, Super Bowl bust. And if your team is in that mode, it's always a good time, right? I'm excited about the Saints right now. The Saints are in that same type of mode. Next year, we're trying to get the Super Bowl.
Oh, man, your Saints got screwed in the playoffs, man. They were part of the miracle in Minneapolis. I still get goosebumps thinking about that game. I haven't deleted it from my DVR yet. That's just how amazing that was. Can you believe that? I don't even want to know what you were feeling when that happened as a Saints fan. Oh, my gosh, I would have died and came back to life all over again.
No, see, what happened was I went to the bathroom, because I didn't want somebody to see me crying over a football game. So, I had to...
I know, man. Because I wasn't crying on that one. I was close to tears when Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks embarrassed us on Christmas, so I can only imagine how you were feeling, because that wasn't even the playoffs.
Yeah, no, it was rough. It was a rough one, because you're right there. People are forgetting about the crazy comeback we made. We were down pretty much the whole game and made that crazy comeback, and you're like, oh, we got it. We only got 25 seconds left. We good. And they go and make that crazy drive. It's like, but I gotta forgive Marcus Williams, because I think he's a young safety who will turn into a really good player for us. So I had to put it behind me, and hopefully this season he, makes up for it. That's all I could hope for. But it definitely very painful.
That's gonna be on his mind all year, every time he's going for a tackle, he's going to think about that play. He is going to have one hell of a season, trust and believe me.
Definitely. I believe that as well, because it's got to build a extra big chip on his shoulder, because people like myself are getting on him everywhere. So he's definitely going to have a big chip on his shoulder. Now, let's switch gears a little bit. Talk about your Dallas Mavericks. Now, it's been a little rough the last couple of years for the Mavericks. And they've even had off-the-court stuff going on. But do you see anything positive that Mavericks fans could take into next season?
Oh, yeah. I got one word for you, dear Dallas Mavericks Nation, MFFL fans. Dennis Smith Jr., baby, DSJ. If that don't get you hyped up, I don't know what will. I was able to go to a few games this year. I try and go watch him play a few times every year. And I don't even think people, because when you're part of the losing, when your team is losing, if you're not like just a sports junkie, like to the point where it's almost annoying, like my wife, I don't know how she hasn't divorced me yet, because she does not like sports, and I literally could watch them all day, every day. But for one, we got Rick Carlisle, one of the best coaches. One of the top five. Yeah, I said it to anybody who denies it. You know where to find me. JoJo's replay, baby. Top five coaches in the NBA and Rick Carlisle. We got this kid, Dennis Smith Jr., that we drafted with the number 9. I don't think people realize how great this kid has the potential to be. He was injured on and off early throughout the year, but he's fast, he's quick, he's athletic, he's ferocious. The way he can drive into the paint and break down the defense and open up the wing and the perimeter for his teammates, it's amazing. And I'm telling all of Dallas fans, if you're in Dallas and you're listening right now, go check this kid out before the season is over. I am begging you. We have a home game tomorrow. So find a ticket and go see this kid, because he is the future, and he has all the intangibles that you want from a young guard coming into the NBA. And he's got a coach like Rick Carlisle who's gonna develop him. I mean, look at Jay Crowder. I mean, Jay Crowder was a nobody coming out of college. And Rick Carlisle turned him into one of the best role players in the league. And when he was in Boston, he was a big part of what they did until he got traded to Cleveland. And somehow, playing with the self-proclaimed best player in the world, he was a shell of himself. Then he goes to Utah, and he's right back to being the Jay Crowder that we know and love. So you got a coach like Rick Carlisle that's going to put his all into making sure this kid is ready. And he's got some great pieces around him. We're young. Yes, we're rebuilding, but Dirk brought us a championship in 2011, and if you're a true Mavericks fan, damn it, you'll stay and you'll wait for greatness to come back again.
Yeah, you got to be. If you're a true fan, you got to go through the ups and downs. Right?
So, you got to go through them, man.
Yeah, and everybody's been through the rebuilding periods. It's almost more exciting than being in the middle. Like when you're a team that's stuck in the middle. Like, think about the Atlanta Hawks for, not this year, of course, they're horrible this year and they're in their rebuilding mode. Mm-hmm. But all the years prior to this year, Atlanta Hawks were constantly that middle-of-the-road playoff team that was going to get to the second round, and that was about it. They had that 1 year where they won like 60 games and had 4 All-Stars. But besides that, every year was, you knew it was going to happen. They're going to get like the 4 or 5, 6 seed. They're going to lose in the first or second round. And that was it. So you have to hit rock bottom to get to the top, I believe. I don't think you can. It's very hard to go from the middle like that to go to the top unless you get some big time free agent. But those guys, like Kevin Durant went to a team that was already at the top, so it's hard to get those guys anyway.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on that move right there, boy. We'll be all night. You'll never get done with this show tonight, Damian. Don't go with Kevin Durant in that move to Golden State.
I think we feel the same way about that one. I've had a lot of rants about how I thought that was the biggest punk move in history. So I think we're on the same page on that one. Now,
it's so disrespectful.
Now, you guys still have your legend in Dirk Nowitzki. Is there a urgency to try to get the team better than what their projected path is right now, to try to get Dirk on a winning team before he's done?
I mean, if Dirk wanted to be on a winning team before he was done, he should have took his chances in free agency when he had the opportunity. His loyalty is sometimes it's a detriment to him. And honestly, after Mark Cuban did the unthinkable and the unforgivable and breaking up our 2011 championship team, if I was Dirk, I would have left in. I would not have blamed Dirk any year after we won that championship that he decided to leave, because I feel like Mark Cuban was a little too smart for himself and kind of ended up playing us and forcing us into this in the middle mediocre stage that we've been kind of stuck in since we won our championship. And Dirk, for all the greatness that he has brought to the Mavericks organization, I just felt like he deserves better. And honestly, like I said, I wouldn't blame him if he left, but he's too loyal and he appreciates what Mark and the Mavericks have done for him. And you know, he grew up here. He went from a kid in Germany and foreign to everything in the United States. And the Mavericks, they helped him grow up. They helped him become an American to a sense, you know. So I think he holds that really near and dear to his heart. But that's not going to go anywhere. He's got 1 year, 2 tops. He's already said he's going to come back next season. But he's in it for the good and the bad and the ugly. You know what I mean? And I hate that we couldn't give him one more. But even if Dirk sees himself an opportunity next season where he can be traded possibly to a championship team, I would not blame him because of everything that he has done, not just for the Dallas Mavericks, man, to the game of basketball. I don't even think Mavericks fans really appreciate everything that he has done, not just for the Dallas community, but for the game. I mean, this is a guy who's been imitated by players coming after him. His patented turnaround, fadeaway, one-leg jumper. I mean, like, I still get goosebumps watching him make that move and knocking that shot down. And you see players like KD and Lebron imitating that same shot. You know, like he made the mark for foreign players in the NBA, and I don't think people really realize just how significant he is to the NBA in the game of basketball. I mean, he's the best.
Yeah, I'm definitely right there with you. You think about, you said his impact. Without him, we don't have, Porzingis and players like that. Without Dirk Nowitzki.
When you think about it, if you think about it, there wouldn't be players, not just Porzingis. There wouldn't have been this transformation where you had a big man and he did everything. Not only could he rebound, but he could shoot threes and he could post you up, and he was just so versatile. He created, like you said, he created Kristaps, he created Karl Anthony Towns, he created Anthony Davis, aka the Brown. Like, every player after him, he is the reason why you have big men, and that's what you look for when you see a big man. Not that he's big, not that he's physical, not that he's dominant in the paint. Can he spread the floor? Can he shoot from the perimeter and dominate in the post? That's all Dirk. Like, that wouldn't have came about without him.
Now, that's a very good point. And you mentioned how people have started to use his patented fadeaway one-leg jumper. I've heard Kevin Durant talk about it a lot of times, how he does that shot, and he gives credit to Dirk. He says that's the Dirk shot. But, Kevin Durant, he said, at my height, I might as well use it as well. So you definitely have to give credit to Dirk for that. Now, let's move on from a future Hall of Famer to the current Hall of Fame class. The 2018 Hall of Fame class is definitely loaded. You have Jason Kidd, Grant Hill, Steve Nash, Ray Allen, Mo Cheeks, Charlie Scott, and not to mention the women as well, Katie Smith, Tina Thompson, amongst others.
Tina Thompson!
Yes.
My girl, Tina Thompson!
Definitely one of the greats right there. And we know everybody in this class is great, but my question is, which is a very hard question to answer, who is the best player in the 2018 Basketball Hall of Fame class?
Oh, they didn't have one for me. It's hands down. It's Jason Kidd, baby. I'm sorry. I know he's only won one championship with my Dallas Mavericks, by the way. But Jason Kidd, for me, and this is probably a biased decision because he won a championship with my Mavs, but this guy, he was the perennial passer of my generation. Like, I didn't get to see Magic growing up. I didn't get to see Oscar Robertson growing up live and in person. So when I first started watching a game of basketball, Jason Kidd was the floor general. Like, he was the standard of guard, and it's everything that this guy, all the way from what he did with the Knicks, originally being drafted by Dallas in the first place. I just feel like so many individuals, and what's so special about Jason Kidd is, when you think about it, he never really had a shot. Like, he never had, like, just this awesome stroke when it came to him putting the ball in the basket, right? But he was able to do so much as far as his court vision, as far as being an extensive coach on the basketball floor. And when you talk about a guy who is a 10-time NBA All-Star, he made the NBA, the All-NBA first team 5 times. He made the All-NBA defensive team 4 times. I mean, go down the list. This is one of the guys who did it and did it better than any point guard of his generation or of his class. And he did it for so long. Led the league in assists for 5 seasons. And even though he only averaged I think it was 12, 13 points a game, this guy made everyone better on the floor, like a magic, like a what people claim LeBron James is, even though I dispute that at times, and I got the facts to back it up for all those LeBron riders out there. But I mean, Jason Kidd, he's just special. You know, he's he played with USA. He represented the men's basketball in the United States. Like, he's just a constant professional. Over 12,000 assists in his career. I mean, don't discount what this guy has meant, not just to the game of basketball, but just as an individual who, through the trials and tribulations that he's went through, and he's had a couple of hiccups throughout his lifetime, he always brings it, and I think he's going to be a hell of a coach for years to come. I hate that Milwaukee fired him, but I think Jason Kidd is going to show that he could be a coach that can lead a team to the championship as well. And Steve Nash is great. Maurice Cheeks is great. Like, it's a great class, as you said, but I guess I'm a little biased because Jason Kidd, he was the floor general that helped us get to the championship, so I got to go with that for Kidd.
Okay, I definitely cannot argue against what you're saying. And it's crazy because last week on the show I had a debate with Mr. Controversy, and we were debating who was better out of Jason Kidd and John Stockton. And I actually took Jason Kidd in that argument for all the things that you mentioned. And plus, I don't think John Stockton could have brought that New Jersey Nets team to the finals 2 years in a row the way Jason Kidd did. So I definitely...
No way!
Yes.
No. But the 3 other players on that team in the starting lineup outside of Jason Kidd, and don't look it up, off the top of your head.
Well, I did it last week, so I know him. But please don't.
But if you wouldn't have done it last week, you would have had to think about it, okay? He played with a bunch of nobodies when he was with the freaking Nets.
No, that's true. That's very true. Because you think about outside of Kenyon Martin, who was more of just a dunker and a fast break guy. Kerry Kittles was cool. And I don't think Rich Jefferson was starting at that time. He was young. You had Todd McCullough.
He was young.
Yeah. And,
man.
Yeah, he had. When I said, if you bring somebody named Todd McCullough to the NBA Finals twice in a row, you great. You are definitely.
That's first ballot Hall of Famer alone, okay?
Definitely. But with that being said, I am going to pick someone else from this class as the best in this class. Now, this player doesn't.
Who is that? Give it to me.
This player doesn't have the stats of the players, but I think in his prime, he was the best of these players. And if we would have got to see him throughout a duration of his career with no injuries, I think he could have been one of the greatest of all time. Talking about Grant Hill. Now, a lot of people. A lot of people are gonna be like, "Man, how you gonna pick Grant Hill?" But if you remember those Detroit years, when he came in, he was picked to be the next guy, like not just the next guy for Detroit, but the next guy in the league. When Jordan played baseball, Grant Hill was supposed to be that dude, and he lived up to the billing when he first came in. You think about those years in Detroit where he averaged 21 points a game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, was selected to the All-NBA teams 5 times, and made 7 All-Star teams, and 1 was after all injuries with Orlando.
Yeah.
His versatility was crazy. He was getting triple-doubles like it was nothing. He was getting Jason Kidd stats, and he's 6'8". So he was doing this stuff from a different position, defender, passer, rebounder. He had it all. And in Detroit, he just didn't get enough help. You remember those Detroit teams?
That's true, man.
Yeah, he had an older Joe Dumars. And outside of that, he had Jerry Stackhouse. When Jerry Stackhouse finally came into his own, that's when he left. So he never got to play with Jerry Stackhouse when Jerry Stackhouse really became the Jerry Stackhouse that, was second in the league in scoring behind Allen Iverson that year. He didn't play with that Jerry Stackhouse. And once he finally got to Orlando, where he was supposed to play with the great Tracy McGrady at that time, that's when all the ankle injuries started happening. And
yeah, man, those ankles, those plagued Grant Hill, man. You know what? And you may have to watch out for Steph Curry because he may be about to come into the same issue with his ankles. We thought he got past them early on. It seemed like he had ankle issues and it was never going to go away, but it's starting to creep back up on him. And you're right, man. Grant Hill, you knew Grant Hill was going to be great all the way back when he was at Duke. I remember watching some of his old tape with my dad from when he was at Duke, because when he was at Duke, I was, like 3-4 years old. But, I mean, the guy was in a league of his own even then, you know what I mean? And you really thought that he was going to be the next guy. Like, he was going to be the next guy that, kids were wearing his shoes like Jordan,
Definitely. And I still remember the Sprite commercial. The Pumas was hot. Like, my man Grant Hill was out here doing this thing. And so I have to go with Grant Hill as the best player. He didn't have the best career out of these guys, but I think he was the best player at his peak. But we definitely can't sleep on Ray Allen either. Yeah, thank you. We definitely can't sleep on Ray Allen either. We forget how good Ray Allen was in those Seattle years. Before he got to Boston, where his role changed, and he was more of just a spot-up three guy. In Seattle, with him and Rashard Lewis, Ray Allen was out here getting buckets. Like, not just shooting threes. My man was out here pulling up off the dribble, doing everything, especially the Milwaukee days as well. I think we forget how good he was.
Jesus was first created.
Yeah.
Jesus Shuttleworth, baby.
Definitely. Like, in those years with Seattle, he was averaging 25 points a game on 45% shooting, 40% from the three-point line. Like, he was out here getting buckets in an efficient manner. So we definitely can't sleep on Ray Allen in this discussion. And, of course, Steve Nash, two-time MVP. Only thing with Steve Nash for me is I think the MVPs came at a time when maybe somebody else deserved them. And that's kind of why people may, sleep on Steve Nash a little bit. And also, he was horrible defensively. But when you think about those Suns teams, though, those Suns teams paved the way for all the fast pace that we see today. So you have to give Steve Nash.
D'Antoni's system, D'Antoni and Steve Nash, they created that system that a lot of teams staple themselves after today. You see what D'Antoni's doing with another premier guard in Houston with James Harden. So, it's a system that works, but it's a system that's never going to win you a championship because they don't play defense.
Now Houston is a little better on defense this year than most of D'Antoni's teams. So I do believe they have a decent shot.
Stop it. They are a little better, Damian. They got P.J. Tucker and Gerald Green, and all of a sudden people want to call them elite. They are okay on defense. They're not horrible, but they're not better. They're not that much better.
That's the thing, though. When you have an offense that's that good, you don't need to be great at defense. You got to be decent. And that was the problem with the Suns teams. They were horrible.
When you get to the playoffs, and the game slows down and those possessions are fewer in between, that's when defense is key, especially when you have a star like a James Harden who's known for coming up a little bit short when the lights are at their brightest. Then you damn sure need that defense.
No, it's very true. It's very true. When the game slows down, you definitely need that defense. We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. I think that with Chris Paul being there, he is an elite defender. Still to this day, he's still really good. And I think his energy, especially in the playoffs, will rub off on the rest of them as far as defense. And I think it will help. And you got Golden State. You mentioned Steph Curry. He's going to be out for the first round. You'll know how he's going to recover coming in second and third round. I think it could be interesting with Houston maybe being there, or another team in the West challenging Golden State. I think the West is going to be really interesting this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. But I'm one of the individuals that with Houston. You're gonna have to show me. Chris Paul. Was I in a coma and I missed the year that Chris Paul led a team to a Western Conference Finals? Okay. By your answer, I'm taking it that no, I was not in a coma. So, all right.
That's
so
cold.
Show me.
That's cold-blooded.
Show me, Houston.
That's cold-blooded. You ain't had to do Chris Paul like that.
That's the truth, baby. That's the truth.
It is the truth.
Chris Paul had a team with Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and one of the best benches in the league, and you couldn't get along good enough. And then not only that, you had a Golden State Warriors team that wasn't even in their prime yet. That was still when they were being coached by Mark Jackson, and Steph Curry was one crossover away from being injured with them ankles. So no, Chris Paul has to show me. Because you had many opportunities to lead a team at least once to the Western Conference Finals, and I'm still waiting. I'm getting old, CP3. I'm getting old.
See, I have a special place in my heart for Chris Paul because he's a person who I've seen in person the most, growing up in New Orleans back when he played the New Orleans Hornets. And I do think Chris Paul, the right team, can make the conference finals. I think this year is the year Houston and Chris Paul get to the conference finals, and we'll see from there if they can go further.
Silly Damien, tricks are for kids.
So
didn't somebody tell you that?
We're gonna see. But now this Hall of Fame class is loaded, but it does not have everybody. There were a few people left out. Noticeably, it was Chris Webber and Rudy Tomjanovich that were left out of the Hall of Fame class this year. Let's start with Chris Webber. Chris Webber is a 5-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA selection, Rookie of the Year. For his career, averaged 21 and 10 on 48% shooting. Sounds like a Hall of Famer to me. Where do you stand on Chris Webber?
Is he champion?
Say it.
I mean, he wasn't a champion, was he?
He wasn't a champion, no.
And let me say this about Chris Webber. He was great. I loved him. My dad was a big Fab Five fan. He just shoved Chris Webber and Jalen Rose and all them boys down my throat. He just loved that time in that era of Michigan basketball. But the downfall for me with Chris Webber will always be, first off, the Ed Martin scandal and just the way he handled it and went about it throughout his career. And even though he was a kid and just like the kids now and the kids then, when it comes to the NCAA and them being manipulated and controlled and being in situations where they don't have money and it's being, tossed in your face. But I feel like he never really took ownership of his own part in that scandal and in the NCAA stripping them of their championship. And I felt like something that he's always shied away from and refused to talk about even after his NBA playing days were over. And when you think about it, yes, Chris Webber, he was a great basketball player. Don't get me wrong, 6'10", 250 pounds. He was a LeBron James before a LeBron James, right? But I felt like, for one, you have a guy, when you look at him, he bounced around the league a lot. He played for the Washington. He was drafted, I think it was, he drafted by the Orlando Magic, I think it was. Then he got traded to the Golden State Warriors, and then he was a Washington Bullets /Wizards for a few years, and then he really made his name for himself with the Sacramento Kings and those great years that he had with them. But there's nothing really to me about Chris Paul's career that stands out. You know what I mean? It's not like he's at the top of the list or in the top 10 as far as total points per game. I don't even think he's in the top 10 as far as total rebounds per game, as far as the totality in his career. I think the thing that he's most known for is being a part of Michigan's Fab Five. And when you can't even take ownership for something that you were a part of, and you never really I don't never really remember Chris Webber just having these dominant years. He was always a great player, but he never led a team consistently to NBA finals. He wasn't a guy that can transform a team or make all the players around him better. I think he wasn't as good as a leader as a player with his skill set should have been, and I think that was a detriment to him in his career. But honestly, I don't feel like Chris Webber deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I just don't.
Okay, now I definitely can respect that. You bring up some very good points. Now, with Chris Webber, I do think he made people around him better. He was known as one of the best passing big men in the league, which really helped out the Doug Christies of the world and the Peja Stojakovic's and the Mike Bibby's during those Sacramento years where they were so good. And let's not forget, he could have led a team to the finals if there wasn't some crooked referees in Game 6 of 2002 Western Conference Finals, where
shoulda, coulda, woulda.
you can't lie and say that's not a big part of it. Like the fact that we all know, the Lakers weren't supposed to get many free throws in that game in the fourth quarter. That helped, and that definitely helped the Lakers out in a way where, and that was the year where the Kings looked like the team. So I think that has to come into it as well.
I'll give you that, but see, to me, you can't lace it, because if that's the case, hell, Dirk Nowitzki should have 2 championships based on the horrible referee calling in our finals with the Miami Heat in 2006. I mean, the questionable calls that Dwayne Wade constantly got in that series was ridiculous. But again, coulda, shoulda, woulda. We were up in that series 2-0 at the end of the day, and if we really wanted to win, we shouldn't have left it in the hands of the referees. So I don't want to hear that about, this wouldn't have happened, or the Lakers had all these. And how many years was he in the league, and you still never got it done? You never won one title as great of a player that you were? You go to Charles Barkley and think about him, or Reggie Miller. Who did Reggie Miller ever have outside of the Mark Jacksons of the world and a couple of other All-Stars here and there? Or Charles Barkley, he played with garbage almost his whole career outside of a couple of years. If it wasn't for Charles Barkley, those Phoenix teams wouldn't have got to the finals that they did, okay? And what are we supposed to do, beat Jordan and them boys? No, it wouldn't have happened. So you can point to a lot of players throughout their career, but Chris Webber to me, when I think of him, I don't think about a guy who really just put his stamp on the game of basketball or the NBA, and I don't blame him for leaving him off, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't make it again next year. He probably won't make it for another, at least a couple of seasons.
Okay. Tough crowd. But I definitely respect where you're coming from when it comes to that opinion. I think eventually he gets in. Like I said, because I think he has Hall of Fame stats, but you do bring up some good points. You don't really have the signature Chris Webber moments that you have with like a Reggie Miller or Charles Barkley, the players who didn't win championships. So I can see where you're coming from on that one. Now let's move on to Rudy Tomjanovich. Now, he was somebody who was left out. This guy, as a player, was a 5-time All-Star who averaged 17 points a game and 8 rebounds. And then he was the 3rd leading scorer in Rockets history. And as a coach, got 2 championships, had a .560 winning percentage for his career, and also was the coach of the 2000 gold medal team. Everybody remembers that Olympics is the one as Vince Carter jumped over the dude from France, and that dude decided to not come to the NBA because of it. That's the 2000 Olympics right there. So for Rudy T, do you think he got shafted and should have been in this class in the Hall of Fame?
Now him, I don't know. Like, see, with him, I feel like to a certain degree, yes, because like you say, he won a championship as a coach, and to me, he had somewhat more of a significance to the game overall than a Chris Webber did. And to me, when you are able to reach the highest pinnacle of success whether it's as a player or a coach, in your league, to me, that deserves recognition because it's not easy. Like, it's not easy to win a championship. That's why you have teams like the Celtics and the Lakers that will always be the staples of the NBA because they own almost half of the total championships in the league. And for you, like you say, to lead the Houston Rockets team to those two championships, I just feel like the guy deserves it more than a Chris Paul does. And when you think about some of the guys who were granted trades because they wanted to play for him, like the Clyde Drexlers and the Charles Barkleys and the Scottie Pippens, like this guy, he was well known for being one of the more instinctive type manageable styles. He was very intense as a coach on the bench, and players love to play for him. You know what I mean? So when you talk about a person like him, to me, his resume stacks up much better than a Chris Webber. And yes, I would have. To me, he should have got in before Chris Webber got in. I think his resume speaks for itself, and he should be in there, man. I mean, think about those championship teams. Those were fun Houston Rocket teams to watch. You know what I mean? Like those guys, and just how fluid they were on the court. I mean, it was fun to watch. So if I had to pick between him and Chris Webber, I would definitely go with my boy Rudy T.
Okay, I'm with you there. If it's between Chris Webber and Rudy T, I'm going to go Rudy T because not only did Rudy T have a good playing career, which was a little bit shortened by one of the most famous punches in NBA history, where, you know, he ruined his face and whatnot.
Washington incident.
Yes. So that was Rudy T on the end of that punch. And his career wasn't quite the same after that. Even though he did make one more All-Star team after that, he wasn't quite the same.
Yeah.
So with Rudy T, he had a good playing career, great coaching career. When you combine those two, I think he's an automatic Hall of Famer. So I didn't get why he was left out. Maybe you only have a limited amount of spots. But like you said, if it comes down to him and Chris Webber, of course he's in.
They retired his number in Michigan. He got retired number 45. This dude was a baller, even back in college, man. Like, I mean, his resume speaks for itself. I'm sorry. I would take him over Webber any freaking day of the week.
I'm right there with you. I think both guys deserve to get in, but Rudy T is on a higher plane as far as when he should get in than Chris Webber. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
So, of course, all these Hall of Famers have been influential to the game. And ESPN most recently has done a most influential basketball players of all time. Right? They did a top 100 list, but we're going to concentrate on the top 10 and who should have been in, who's maybe too high, and who's missing, okay? And let me just go over the top 10 that ESPN did really quickly. So, of course, number 1, Michael Jordan. 2 was LeBron. 3, Magic Johnson. 4, Bill Russell. 5 was Wilt Chamberlain. 6 was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. 7 was Oscar Robertson. 8 was Dr. J. 9 was Larry Bird. And 10 was Steph Curry. So how do you feel about that top 10? And what comes out to you immediately as being wrong in that top 10?
I mean, well, it's a hell of a top 10. Those are a great list of players. Definitely a set of players that kind of evolutionized the game at the moment that they came into the league. And was a staple of players after them, imitating their games after those players. So, a great top 10. But if I was to change anything, and I'm probably going to get a lot of noise for this one, as I always do when I talk about this individual. But if I had to choose someone who doesn't belong, I would have to go with LeBron James. And I say this, okay, before anybody jumps down my throat. The reason I say this is because, to me, LeBron James did nothing to evolutionize the game. LeBron James, do not get me wrong, he is one of the best players to ever play the game of basketball. His sheer dominance, his physical presence that he brings to the court, the way that he has continued to develop and further his game and his high basketball IQ as a whole, yes, I give it to you. It is one of the best that we have seen to do it. But to me, what did LeBron evolutionize? What did he really influence in the game? Was he a phenomenon? Yes. Was he one of the few players and one of the last players to come out of straight out of high school into the NBA? Yes. But I don't look at LeBron James and see, oh my gosh, this guy changed the way the game of basketball is played. If you go early on in his career, as dominant of a physical player that he was, he didn't have a great post game. He had absolutely no jump shot, and he depended mostly on his physicality early on in his career. When you look at that first finals of that Cleveland team that he dragged to San Antonio Spurs, why did they get swept in that series? Because Greg Popovich, the great coach that he is, turned LeBron James into a jump shooter. Where they forced him to shoot jumpers, and he lived and died by the jumper, and the Cleveland got swept in the finals. But when we talk about Michael Jordan, this is a guy who came in, and when you think about the black athletes before Michael Jordan, there was no guy that transcended the game of basketball the way that Michael Jordan did. It became a worldwide phenomenon when this man entered the league. When it comes to the shoe and the Jordan brand and how it's still synonymous with the game of basketball, even to this day. And he has been retired over 15, 20 years, and he's still as significant to the game now as he was as a player. And when you look at a Magic Johnson, a guy who was that tall that we never saw be able to move with the ball in the way that he did. He was so fluid on the court. And then you think about a Steph Curry. This guy completely evolutionized the way we play the game of basketball today, turning it from where players sought after dominant big men who could just destroy you in the paint, where, no, we want players that can space the floor. We want to shoot three-pointers more than two-pointers because they're worth more. He completely changed the way players, coaches, and team approach drafting players, approach scouting players, approach doing anything when it came to the sport, because this guy shot the ball in a way that we've never seen it before. But outside of LeBron James' physicality, I don't feel like there's anything he's done to transform the game outside of being just a physically dominant player that most individuals couldn't stop one-on-one. I don't see anything that he's done that makes me look at the game of basketball and say, wow, the game of basketball wouldn't be this without LeBron James. I just don't see it.
I have to disagree with you on this one. Now, when it comes to LeBron, like first with the 2007 finals, the fact that he got that team there, and lost to the great Spurs in 4. Of course, when you have LeBron and a bunch of people that didn't last in the league that long, you're going to get swept by the San Antonio Spurs. It wasn't just the fact that they made LeBron a jump shooter. It was the fact that LeBron couldn't disperse any of the pressure to anybody else. He had Eric Snow.
Okay, well, quick question, and
yes.
then I'll let you finish your point. So, what about when he faced the Spurs again after they beat him in 7 games and they got a gentleman's sweep 4-1? He had a jump shot then, and he was a more experienced LeBron James then. He had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, and they barely won 1 game in that series.
Yeah, the Spurs were on a different level that year. Yes, they definitely dominated that series. That 2014 Spurs team is one of the greatest teams, period, of all time. When you look at the way they were passing the ball.
And that Miami Heat team that LeBron James was a part of, that was one of the greatest teams of all time.
It was, definitely. And
they got to 4 straight finals.
They did. And that's one of the reasons that LeBron is such an influential figure in the sport, is the greatness of getting to those finals. with Miami and with Cleveland. And not only on the court, but off the court. I think that his influence off the court is going to give the blueprint for players to come forward as far as business, the way they look at social issues. I think LeBron's had a big influence as far as players being outspoken in the NBA. And I think that's one of the reasons he had number 2 on this list. And he carried that torch after Jordan. Like, after Jordan retired with the Wizards, LeBron came that next year, and he was the one carrying the torch.
I don't even think LeBron James belongs in the same sentence as Michael Jordan. I think LeBron James proved this year with the toxicity that was inside of that Cleveland locker room, the lack of leadership that he showed this year, what Michael Jordan team or any other great historic player that you've ever known in the NBA, what team have they ever been a part of where they had to trade away 6 players at the NBA trade deadline because no one in the locker room could stand each other hardly. No one could get along, and you're the leader of that franchise. You're the best player, the self-proclaimed best player in the world, and then you take no accountability in the fact that one of the young superstars in the NBA and Kyrie Irving basically came out to the world and said he didn't want to play with you, LeBron James. You can't discount. How is that influence? How is that being one of the most outspoken individuals in the NBA when you have a guy who any team in the NBA would love to have them a part of his roster is playing with the best player in the NBA, and he says, no, I don't want to play with you anymore. And you have 6 players that you have to trade away. And everyone talks about how LeBron James makes everyone better. How? Chris Bosh was a guy that averaged a double-double in Toronto before he came to Cleveland. Then they stuck him in the corner and said, shoot open threes, Chris Bosh. That's all we need you to do. Kyrie Irving felt like he couldn't be the player that he knew he could be, and we saw what he's done in Boston, despite being injured on and off. Look at Isaiah Thomas. He leaves and goes to Los Angeles. He's averaging 16 and 5 again. Look at Jay Crowder. He looks like he has completely forgot how to play the game of basketball. Then he goes and gets traded to Utah, and he's instrumental in their playoff run. But this is an influential player? This guy that's number 2, 3 on the list? Come on, man. I don't see it.
Okay, you make some good points, but for every player you name that has done better after LeBron, I can give you 2 players that have not done anything without LeBron. Think about the Mario Chalmers of the world.
I can give you 2 for almost every other superstar that ever came in the NBA too, Damian. I can give you probably 2 to 5 players that after they played with that superstar, they were a shell of themselves after they didn't play with that superstar. But that's not an underlining factor for me. Because that's any dominant player that you play with. Sometimes players aren't going to be as good when they don't play with them.
Yeah, that's true. And there's also going to be players who shine when they get from under the influence of that big superstar. Like, prime example, Victor Oladipo. Russell Westbrook last year was going ham. And Victor Oladipo was part of the team that we thought the role players are all trash. And then Victor Oladipo gets free, goes to Indiana as an all-star. So there's situations like that everywhere. And with LeBron, he's not excluded from that. But his influence on the game is bigger than just on the court and with his teammates. I do agree with you that this year has been very weird for a superstar to have that many players trade away from a team. But I think the team was just constructed badly. There was a lot of old players at the time. They had to get younger.
But who constructed the team, Damian? Who constructed the team? Who was instrumental in paying J.R. Smith, who's one of the streakiest shooters in the NBA, $17 million a year? Who was instrumental in making sure that Tristan Thompson, who you had to bench in the NBA Finals because he was a liability on the court, made $90 million on a contract? Those were all moves that LeBron James wanted. You wanted your best buddy, Dwayne Wade, to come play for you, so they brought him over there. You wanted PG-13 and Eric Bledsoe, and you were willing to trade away Kyrie like a thief in the middle of the night, and then when he found out, he told you, bump you, and I don't want to be here no more. I mean, come on, like, what are we saying here, Damian? I don't understand, Damian.
Okay, LeBron James could want those players, but he doesn't make the ultimate decision of signing them. He doesn't make that decision.
Oh my gosh, you're killing me. You're killing me. Who represents J.R. Smith?
Clutch agency, yeah.
Who represents Tristan Thompson?
His agency, Clutch.
So you're telling me he's not instrumental in those players being signed?
Yeah, he's instrumental from the other side of the player getting the contract, but he's not the one controlling. He's not the one controlling the cash, making them sign that big contract, give him that big contract. He could ask for it, but at the end of the day, it was up to the GM at the time and the owner to give that big contract out.
But I mean, you, in my opinion, you can't say that LeBron James has no place in that when he's telling the media, "Oh well, I really think J.R. Smith is a key part to this team, and we really need him." You're feeding into the media, basically telling them that this is what I want. You know, one of the stipulations of him coming back to Cleveland in the first place, Dan Gilbert basically had to sign away his freaking life and say, "Whatever you want, LeBron James, is your way or the highway." So you can't tell me that, "Oh, I give you everything you want," and then it doesn't work out, but somehow it's not your fault, and you deflect blame and you try to control the narrative to make it seem like you're not a part of it when you are the main part of it. You are all of it. Cleveland would not be in a position that they are as far as having a salary cap that's completely trashed and garbage, whether LeBron James ever goes, and then you hold the Cleveland Cavaliers franchise hostage and sign these 1-2 year contracts with player options, basically telling the world that I'm LeBron James and I'm gonna do what the hell I want to do. Like, come on, man, that's not influential to me. That's being a mercenary to the NBA and dictating what you do and how you do it, because everybody's not a LeBron James. Everybody can't dictate their greatness, and to me, you're setting a model that not many players can follow.
Yeah, not many players can follow it.
That's not what influential players do.
But that's the thing, though. Like, when you say he's the one who got Tristan Thompson the contract, got J.R. Smith the contract, it's his way out of highway as a player, that's a definition of influence. When you have that much influence over your franchise,
that's negative influence. When you have the ability to be the catalyst in a franchise being ran into the ground, and basically there's going to be nothing when you leave them for the second time. Who wants that to be a part of their legacy? Who wants someone to look back at you as a player, as a man, as an individual, and say, "Yeah, LeBron James is one of the greatest to ever do it," but man, it's a lot of NBA players that really found their nose the way he chose to deal with some of his teammates during that year in Cleveland that was chaotic. I mean, come on, to me, that's not the type of thing that I want to associate with someone who claims to be the best in the world. Because when you talk about being the best in the world, it's just not about the player and the effect that you have on the court. It's the effect that you have as a leader. It's the effect that you have as a man. It's being able. You know why I respect Kevin Durant so much? It's because no matter what, Kevin Durant is going to tell you how he feels. Even if Kevin Durant has to come out and apologize for it later, he's not going to sugarcoat it. He's not going to try and alternate the narrative or give you the PC answer or the cookie-cutter answer that he thinks everyone wants to hear. He's going to say what's on his mind. He's going to say it the way he means it. And if you don't like it, to hell with you. And if it offends too many people and it causes an uproar, hell, I may come out and say sorry later, but deal with it. I can respect that more than a guy who's the greatest in the NBA, yet you feel like you have to dictate and control every single storyline and every perception that people have of you. I think that's narcissism at its finest, if you ask me, not influence.
Well, first of all, Kevin Durant does not deserve to be in the same sentence as LeBron James when it comes to being influential. Okay, first of all, Kevin Durant talking about saying what's on your mind and being real. My man was out here with a fake Twitter account beefing with fans. Why not just say it from your real Twitter account?
Got a fake Twitter account? You think LeBron got a fake Twitter account?
I don't know.
You think Steph Curry and them boys ain't got a fake Twitter account? Only difference between Kevin Durant and everybody else is he got caught. Trust me and believe me, he ain't the only professional athlete that has a fake Twitter account. These guys have bigger egos than anybody in the world. So, of course, they're going to want an opportunity to go out there and heckle the trolls that flood their timeline. Come on, man. You can't sit here and tell me with a straight face you think that Kevin Durant is the only superstar that has a fake Twitter profile.
I'm not saying
a fake Twitter profile.
I'm not saying he's the only one, but I'm saying is he went so hard with it, with having the quote-unquote freedom of the fake Twitter account, because he couldn't be real on his real Twitter accont, that he got caught up with it. No one else is going that ham on their fake Twitter accounts.
What happened when he got caught up?
What was he had to, once he got caught up, he had to say, "Well, okay, cool, I got caught up."
He owned it. He owned it, and then you know how long it was a story for about 24 hours, but it would have been a whole drawn out thing with LeBron James where it says that it is connected to me, and I did it, but I have several people managing my Twitter account. You never know who can, it would have been a whole freaking narrative. He could have wrote a book on the freaking amount of excuses he created to explain the account. Man, get out of here. But we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
Okay. So somebody who I do believe should be in the top 10, getting back to the influential list, is Allen Iverson. I think his influence on the game is something that we still see today. When you talk about bringing hip-hop to the NBA, bringing that culture and bringing it together, the NBA had to bring in a whole dress code rule just for AI. AI is somebody who brought in the influence that even LeBron James said the reason he wears a sleeve and has tattoos is because of Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson made it to where players from quote-unquote the hood could be seen as role models to other players. So I think he deserves to be in the top 10.
I definitely agree with you there.
Now, I don't know who I would take out, though.
Iverson.
You said take out LeBron for Iverson? I wouldn't take LeBron out of the top 10 because I think LeBron's influence is being seen today and will be seen going forward. I definitely agree with Magic.
And while I'm ragging on LeBron, one thing I will say that I do respect wholeheartedly about LeBron is his dedication to his hometown and to the youth. And one thing I will credit to him is he is outspoken, especially when it came to this disgusting commander-in-chief that we have in office. And I do respect him ultimately because this guy is one of the best in the world, and he's been in the league since he was a kid, and he's managed to never get into trouble with the law. He's never been a part of any scandal, and we've even had the great Kobe Bryant be a part of one of the most worldwide known scandals in sports history. So I accredit him for that, for showing up, doing it the right way, and being a constant role model to kids, especially the kids from his hometown. You can tell that he loves his city and where he's from, and he wears it proudly on his sleeve, and that aspect of him I do respect.
Okay, I'm glad that you was able to say some nice things about LeBron today.
But everything else about him is absolute trash.
First of all, for me, I like Kevin Durant as a person. Like when I listen to Kevin Durant's interviews he does with Bill Simmons and stuff like that, he comes across as a real genuine person. I do like that about him. But there's a part of me that would never forgive him for being the second best player in the world and joining a team that just won 73 games. That's still the most bogus thing.
I give it to you.
The most bogus thing in history. So for me, I could never put him in that conversation.
You were 48 minutes away from beating that same 73-9 team. If you think about it, if the Thunder that offseason, if they get one more bench player or a couple solid bench players that could really hold the offense and keep the offense generating when Kevin Durant or Russell Westbrook weren't on the floor, the Thunder could have took it, man. They weren't that close.
No, they definitely should have took it. Now, of course, you had Game 6 where Clay went crazy. That happens. But then you have Game 7. You should go out there and handle your business in Game 7.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook, he had some key turnovers, but Kevin Durant missed some key shots, open shots. going down the stretch of the game. So, yeah, I think he kind of sold himself short, man. I did not like the move. I got over it later on in the year because I get it. It's a business. And if JoJo was at Fox Sports Southwest and ESPN talking about they're going to offer me twice as much, I'm going to have to look at Fox Sports Southwest and be like, look, man, we're going to have to talk about some things. JoJo going to be gone. You feel me?
See, the difference is there, though, you're getting more money. KD left money on the table.
Yeah, true that.
KD left money on the table to go join Golden State.
KD left because he wanted to win a title.
Yeah.
And he knew if you added him to that team, who was going to beat the Golden State Warriors? The only reason they are as vulnerable as they are this year is because of the Steph Curry injuries and just the lack of. Because to me, the playoffs, one of the key parts of it is momentum. The reason I feel like the Mavs won it back in 2011 is everything was going right going into the playoffs for us. We get Portland. We have a great series with them. We dominate the Lakers in the second round. Everyone was calling us to be series, and we end up sweeping them. That was the beginning of Andrew Bynum going crazy. He was never quite right after that series. I'd like to credit my Dallas Mavericks for being the start of his demise. But it's all about momentum, and I feel like this year, if things are not lining up for the matchup that everyone was predicting for us to see again this year, even with the Cavs, I don't think LeBron and the Cavs are going to make it to the finals either.
So who do you have coming out the East?
I got Toronto or Boston coming out of the East. And really Toronto on the 10th. And depending on who the Cavs get in the first round, you see how the Wizards finally was like, damn, maybe we do need John Wall. He was phenomenal in his return back. If they get the Wizards in the first round with John Wall with fresh legs, I mean, hell, watch out. I would take the whole field over the Cavs, honestly. I just feel like they're a mediocre roster outside of LeBron James.
I like some of the moves they made when they did all those trades. I like Larry Nance as a role player. I think he's underrated. Jordan Clarkson has had his flashes here and there. I think George Hill is a good veteran presence. So I think they have the pieces there to make a decent playoff run around LeBron. I do agree that this team is definitely not as good as last year's teams without Kyrie, But Toronto, I think they are shell-shocked by LeBron. When it comes to the playoffs, if they play LeBron, they're going to find a way to lose. They can't get over
Yeah. And that's why I'm on the fence with Toronto, because like I said, they're one of those teams like Houston. You have to show me, because you've just been so dominant in the regular season, and then the playoffs this year. And it's the complete opposite. So I agree with you there. They have to show it to me. But, I mean, they're playing damn good, man. They have the best bench in the East. DeMar DeRozan, I've never seen him as dominant, as well-rounded as he's been this year. Kyle Lowry, he's been outstanding this year. If they can just figure it out in the playoffs and stop playing with everybody's emotions, I mean, who knows? Who knows what could happen for the last week. But, yeah, they got to show it to me first.
Now, like I said, I'm there with you. I think both the West and East will be very interesting this year. This year's playoffs will be way better than last year's. I think all the matchups, first round matchups, everything is going to be out of sight. Yeah, because last year's playoffs, because of Kevin Durant, were trash. And that's one of the reasons I'm still mad.
I did not watch the playoffs until the second round, and I was only watching the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. I wasn't even watching the second round. If it was the Warriors, I did not watch it, okay? Until they got to San Antonio, which I thought had the best chance to beat them, and if it wasn't for that fool Zaza, we might have had a good series on our hands.
No, it's very true. Zaza, my man Kawhi hasn't been the same since. Zaza.
Yeah, he hasn't. I think Kawhi is fine and dandy, and he's just playing to his exit out of San Antonio, but that's another story for another day.
So that's a very interesting point right there, because he may be. They already have the trade rumors ready for next year, so we'll definitely see going forward on that one. So now let's move on to a little sports trivia. This is where I like to challenge our guests and also the audience as well by asking them a few questions about their favorite teams. So, of course, I got 2 Cowboys questions for you and 2 Mavericks questions for you. Are you ready for a little sports trivia?
Yeah, let's do it. I might get them all wrong, put me on the spot, but I'm ready.
All right, for question number 1. Who holds the record for rushing yards in a single season for the Dallas Cowboys? Is it Emmitt Smith, Tony Dorsett, DeMarco Murray, or Ezekiel Elliott? Let me give it to you one more time. Who holds the record for rushing yards in a single season for the Dallas Cowboys? Is it Emmitt Smith, Tony Dorsett, DeMarco Murray, or Ezekiel Elliott?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Okay. I want to go with the obvious answer, but I feel like I'm going to be wrong. So I'm going to go with Tony Dorsett. Am I wrong?
That was a very good guess, but incorrect. The correct answer is DeMarco Murray. Yes, DeMarco Murray in 2014 had 1,845 yards, which is still a record for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, yes, it sure is, because he came close in rookie season to breaking it, but he didn't get it.
Yes. So for question number 2, who holds the record for touchdown catches in a single season for the Dallas Cowboys? Is it Terrell Owens?
Dez Bryant.
That is correct. Dez Bryant has 16 touchdown catches. You mentioned it earlier, so I was like, dang, she's probably going to get that one right. 16 touchdowns in 2014. Like you said, you still believe you can reach those type of heights. So for question number 3.
I do, man. I believe in Dez.
So for question number 3, we're going basketball. Of course, Dirk Nowitzki is first all-time in points for the Dallas Mavericks. Who is second all-time in total points scored while playing for the Dallas Mavericks? Is it Rolando Blackman, Mark Aguirre, Derek Harper, or Michael Finley? Let me give it to you one more time. Of course, we all know Dirk Nowitzki is first all-time in points for the Dallas Mavericks. But who is second all-time in total points scored? Is it Rolando Blackman, Mark Aguirre, Derek Harper, or Michael Finley?
I am going to go with Derek Harper. I was at the game where he was retired this year, and I want to say that was one of the trivia questions there. I'm going with Derek Harper.
That was a very good guess, but incorrect on that one. The correct answer is Rolando Blackman. Yes, a lot of people forget about him.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got that one. I wouldn't have got that one.
Rolando Blackman played with the Mavericks from 1981 to 1992. He scored 16,643 points during that time, averaging 19.2 points per game.
What, do you have Derek Harper's total out of curiosity?
I don't have it on me right now, but he was in the top 10.
I'm going to have to Google that. I know he's got to be in the top 10.
Yeah, he was up there in the top 10. Now, for question number 4.
You stumped me, man. You stumped me on that one. Okay, I'm ready. I'm going to get this one. Damn it, come on, Joe.
Now, we just talked about total points. What about points per game? Who is the all-time leader in points per game for the Dallas Mavericks? Is it Jamal Mashburn, Dirk Nowitzki, Michael Finley, or Mark Aguirre? Let me give it to you one more time. Who is the all-time leader in points per game for the Dallas Mavericks? Is it Jamal Mashburn, Dirk Nowitzki, Michael Finley, or Mark Aguirre?
Oh, my gosh. I want to go with the obvious answer again with Dirk. I mean, this guy was an MVP. He has to be the freaking leader. I don't care if I get it wrong. I'm going with my German, Dirk.
Dirk is second in points per game all time for the Dallas Mavericks. First is Mark Aguirre. Mark Aguirre averaged 24.6 points per game during his time with the Dallas Mavericks from 1981 to 1988.
Yeah, he was a baller. He was definitely a baller. I don't even think people realize just how good him and Derek Harper and those teams back in the 80s were. Like, we were close to getting a championship back then with those guys. But, dang, man, I thought it would have been Dirk. He's just so freaking great.
Yeah.
You're right. Like, Dirk forces you to forget. Like, we've had some pretty great players come through the Dallas Mavericks in our franchise's history. That was some good questions.
Appreciate it. And now let me just recap the questions for you guys. So question number 1 was, who holds the record for rushing yards in a single season for the Dallas Cowboys? The answer is DeMarco Murray, who had 1,845 yards in 2014. Question number 2, JoJo was all over this one. Who holds the record for touchdown catches in a single season for the Dallas Cowboys? It's Dez Bryant, who had 16 in that same year in 2014. Question number 3, who is second in total points scored in Dallas Mavericks history? It is Rolando Blackman, who had 16,643 points from 1981 to 1992. And for question number 4, who is the all-time leader in points per game for the Dallas Mavericks? It is Mark Aguirre, who averaged 24.6 points per game from 1981 to 1988. So I want to thank you for being a good sport during sports trivia. And now it's time.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good question.
Appreciate it. And now it's time for us to do Forgotten Players. Forgotten Players is where we pay homage to players who may have been good but not great, great but not recognized, or players who you may have just forgotten about who we want to remind you of. Who is your forgotten player today, JoJo?
Oh, this is my favorite topic that you had. For me, I'm going to have to go with this guy. You may not even remember this guy, Damien, but he was one of my favorite players. My dad was a really, really big Peyton Manning fan, so we watched a lot of Colts football. And Edgerrin James, if you remember, this guy was a big part of the Colts' success. He even received a Super Bowl ring from them back in 2009 because Peyton loved and adored him so much. He's gone on record saying that he's one of his favorite teammates that he's had in his career. He was legit as far as what he was able to bring to their team and the game of football. He is, many people don't even know, but he was named a Pro Football Hall of Fame finalist for the second time. Like, this guy and what he's done throughout his 11 NFL seasons, I mean, you can't say it enough. He went to 4 Pro Bowls. He rushed for a total of 12,246 yards, which ranked 13th all time on the list, and his 15,610 yards from scrimmage ranked 11th all time among running backs, and that's more than Hall of Fame backs Eric Dickerson, Jerome Bettis, and Jim Brown. So I think a lot of kids, especially a lot of the young generation, and even my generation, I'm 29, and a lot of guys forget just how instrumental he was to those Colt teams back then, and he was fun to watch. I loved watching this guy run the football.
Yes, that's a very good forgotten player right there. Edgerrin James was somebody who he ran with a force. He was somebody who you could say maybe like a Marshawn Lynch has that same type of mold to him, running with that type of force. And he was a big part of those Colts teams with Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, and all those guys. Huge part. Without him running the ball the way he does, those stretch play actions that Peyton Manning became famous for don't work the same way. So you definitely, yeah, exactly. You have to give Edgerrin James his credit. And I do think he should get in the Hall of Fame eventually, because you mentioned he has more yards than all those Hall of Famers that you named. And
yeah, that would be robbing him. I mean, even go to the Colts and their franchise history. He's their greatest running back. He leads their franchise in career rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, rushing yards per game, rushing yards in a single season. I mean, he's the bomb. Like, he has to go in the Hall of Fame. He has to.
Definitely. I'm with you there. Great forgotten player. Now, for mine, I went basketball. I think that this guy is somebody who is influential. He wasn't a great player, but his style of play and his style of player is something that we see today, and he was way before his time. He's a former Dallas Maverick, so I know you're going to like that. I'm talking about Mr. Sam Perkins. Now, a lot of people...
Ooh, nice selection.
A lot of people may not remember Sam Perkins, but he was a true stretch 4 before that term was even popular, before it became a real term. He was somebody at 6'9".
Brooklyn native.
Definitely, yes. He was somebody who, at 6'9", could go down low in the post, especially in his younger years. But as he got older, developed a jump shot. And a lot of people might remember his Seattle years, where he was one of the guys who helped spread the floor so that Gary Payton and Sean Kemp could work. Without, Sam Perkins there, those guys don't become the lethal duo that they became. So Sam Perkins definitely did some good things in the NBA. I mentioned he was drafted by the Dallas Mavericks. That was in 1984 with the 4th overall pick. And he went on to have a really, really good career, man. You think about, for his career, he averaged 12 points per game, which, like you said, isn't monstrous, but he was always providing that spacing for superstars to do their work.
Yeah.
And
he overall throughout his season, he shot the ball from the field really well. I think what did he like 48, 49% as far as his field goal percentage in his career. He was a knockdown shooter.
Yeah, so for his career, he shot 46%, but during those Dallas years, he was up there at 48, 49%. So it's very good memory that you have there. And for his three-point percentage, it literally went up every year he was in the league until his last season, which is crazy. So you talk about somebody improving their shot, you literally see it when you look at his stats that his three-point percentage went up every year, and his three-point shots went up. So it's not like, a lot of people will take less threes and their percentage will go up. He was shooting more threes and his percentage got higher. That's very hard to be more efficient while taking more shots. So that's something that's very underrated about Sam Perkins right there. He played a really long time. He exited the league in 2001 at 39 years old. So he definitely got his money's worth when it comes to the NBA. He was there for a very long time. So shout out to Edgerrin James and Sam Perkins as our forgotten players today. I want to thank you, JoJo, for coming on the show. I hope you had a good time.
Oh, Damien, it was dope, man. Real deal gave me everything I wanted and more. I usually don't get to talk sports like this on a Tuesday, so it was very exciting indeed.
Definitely, I appreciate that. And please tell people again where they can find you and follow you on social media and where they can find the show.
Well, again, we are JoJo's Replay. You can find us on Facebook under JoJo's Replay. We are on Twitter at JoJo's Replay. We are on Snapchat and Instagram at JoJo's Replay. I upload the podcast. Every episode we upload to the Facebook page. We are in the iTunes store. We are now officially in the Google Play Store as well, so that you guys can find us in all of your Android phones and tablets. And anywhere you want to find JoJo's Replay, just type in the words, baby, JoJo's Replay.
Definitely. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the show. If I stamp it, that means it's real. Because I'm not going to give you anything that's not real. Because it's the real deal with Damien Adams. We bring you real sports talk. She does the same thing, bringing you that real sports talk. So I definitely recommend it for everybody. And if you want to follow me, it's the Real Deal WDA on all platforms. Instagram, Twitter, that's the Real Deal. W as in whiskey, D as in Delta, A as in Alpha. Everywhere. Make sure you like the Real Deal with Damien Adams YouTube page and Facebook page. Go ahead and support. It's free. Press the like button. Go ahead and do that for me. And until next time, go real or go home.